Welcome to Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Mare, and we're breaking down the world of pro wrestling.
From the eyes of a smart fan.
And a casual fan, and everyone in between.
Whether you're a lifelong fan
or just getting into it,
you've got a ringside seat with us.
Welcome to part 2 of the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast, where things get a little more polished, a little more dramatic, and yeah, somehow the stakes feel even higher.
We're stepping fully into the world of sports entertainment and breaking down WWE, specifically Raw. As the road to WrestleMania starts tightening up, the stories are getting serious, the pressure's building, and every segment suddenly feels like it matters a little bit more.
Who's peaking at the right time, who's getting lost in the shuffle, and who's one promo away from completely changing the game? Yeah, we've got takes. And then
debuting something brand new, Fantasy Book Friday.
No rules, no limits, one move to shake up a company. Current star, legend, doesn't matter. We're playing GM, we're fixing business, and we're probably making at least one decision that's going to get side-eyed immediately. And of course, we're not doing it alone.
Triple threat mode is still active. I'm in the mix, which means things can and probably will go off the rails at any moment. So let's not waste any more time.
Let's ring the bell. All right, guys, before we jump back into the show, I got to tell you about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that's looking like $1 million without spending $1 million.
If you're listening to the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast, you're already a top-tier wrestling fan. You care about the history, you care about the storytelling, you care about who really won that promo battle.
So why not dress like it?
Over at Pro Wrestling Tees, you can grab the official Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling merch. And buddy, this isn't some fly-by-night cheap print situation.
We're talking soft, comfortable tees.
Clean, bold designs.
The kind of shirt that works at a live show, a meetup, or your weekly pay-per-view watch party.
And here's the thing. When you rock the logo, you're not just wearing a shirt, you're repping the show. You're part of the conversation, and you're part of the community.
So do me a favor.
Right now, open up that browser.
Search Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling on Pro Wrestling Tees.
Grab the shirt. Maybe grab two. One for you, one for the tag partner in your life.
Support the podcast, support the brand.
And look like you belong in the front row while you're doing it.
All right, let's get back to the show. I think it's hilarious. You're like, and things can probably go off the rails at any moment, but you're just like very chill, like monotone. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, and you're like, things are probably going to go off the rails.
That's me, you know me.
All right, we're going to kick off the show with Raw. First, there was a World Tag Team Title Street Fight Division. Picked up the win against the Usos in 8 minutes and 47 seconds. This was a title change. How can you have a street fight in 8 minutes and 47 seconds? That's what I want to know.
Commercials. Too many commercials.
So that was the time with the commercials included? So like 3 minutes of fighting? Or even less?
Pretty much.
TV booking.
Yeah, too many commercials for a big opening match. And to me, this was the reoccurring theme for the night. The involvement of our son's favorite guy, I Show Speed and LA Knight. That was fun and made for something. But what threw me off is what was the big deal about the brass knuckles? I mean, it's a street fight. I mean, why are we trying to prevent him? Pick up a steel chair, fight him off. Like, that just didn't make sense.
I want to know the big question to me, Steve, real quick before you continue, because this is a very, very big topic of discussion. How did Logan Paul's mom get those brass knucks past Madison Square Garden security? I want to know that.
Oh, what a badass mom.
Right?
Yeah, we got to keep it PG on this podcast, but there's a few ways. Believe me, I've snuck some stuff in the WrestleMania.
I'll put the explicit rating on this one.
Yeah. I think the big story coming out of this was, you're definitely setting up the Usos to go back to the bloodline. This is probably going to be a 6-man at WrestleMania with Speed getting involved. So we'll see.
Yeah, that was kind of the vibe I got. I mean, you had Speed, hitting LA Knight with the knucks. Then he feels bad about it, but then he's hanging out with, Logan and Theory in the back. So it's like, did he really feel all that bad about it? But yeah, I'm sure this will be a 6-man. I mean, based on what we've seen, I mean, This could end up being like a pre-show match because I think they have 14 matches right now for both nights. So this might be on one of the pre-shows. But yeah, I mean, it was what it was. It wasn't overly great, but all the guys worked hard, and you had the screwy finish at the end. So it was what it was.
So if the bloodline got back together, how do you think they'd be received?
Over. Over. The place is gonna go
Banana, just one banana.
one banana because
This shit
there's only
is
one.
banana. No one.
There's only one tribal chief, and people are going to eat it up. Now the big question is, do you bring Solo back into the mix, or do you have Jacob take that spot? Me personally, I'm 100% for Jacob.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could go and do with that group. I mean, me personally, I'm over that whole thing. It's felt like it went on for 10 years, but people, want to see it. That's fine. That's their audience. I'm not their core audience anymore. I still watch it because I love WWE and the history, and I'm a pro wrestling fan. But, if that's the route that they go, that's the route that they go. And I think Steve's right. I think, and we'll talk about it later, but I think, you have your two top matches. Well, you got three top matches, but your two top title matches, basically the fans are cheering what's supposed to be the heels. So, things are shifting. So we'll see where it goes. There's some time for that we got 2 weeks yet. There's some time for things to shift, but that's kind of what we're looking at in terms of the top two matches.
Then we had the WWE Women's Tag Team title match. The Immovable Object / Legend and Nia Jax pick up the win against Bailey and Lyra Valkyria. It was a DQ, so our usual weekly non-finish. This was 10 minutes and 44 seconds. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, this basically set up the four-way women's tag team match at Mania. Just like I tweeted, Bailey deserves more, and she's a star. The power bomb she did to Nia was really cool, but at the end of the day, I want to see more Bailey, and I want to see solo Bailey. If she's coming, closer to the end of her career, same with Charlotte. I want them having. I want to see Bailey and Charlotte go out there for 20 minutes, and they're the only, they're the two best right now out of those four women, I think, for the four horsewomen of NXT, and I'd like to see them really go at it. It's crazy to think Bailey has never had like a headlining one-on-one match at WrestleMania.
Yeah, we touched about that before. This match really shows you the difference in caliber and skill and experience, combination of all that. Bailey held that match together because Lash isn't ready yet. She has the athleticism, but she's not there yet. Nia has never really been that good. I'm sorry. Valkyria is good, but she's still kind of working her way up in WWE. Bailey held that together. The match wasn't all that great, and if you remove Bailey from that equation, that match is god awful. So the finish didn't help either. It was just let's just going to run in and just DQ. And then you have all these teams coming out. It's like, yeah, like we talked about, you're setting up the match at Mania, which I get, but my God, the lazy booking, is just
It's been a
horrible.
trend for like the last 5 months.
Terrible, terrible. But I mean, I think between Bailey and Charlotte, and you have the Bellas were never the greatest workers, but they've been around long enough. I think that they can have a decent match. They can put together a decent match. Hopefully it's not too long. They can get in, do some big spots, and get out.
Who was
Because
clamoring for the Bellas to return? That's what I want to know. I
Yeah, who's
I
like, I need some more
yeah.
Bellas.
That's a great question too. I mean, especially, Nikki coming back is fine, but I'm really surprised they brought Brie back based on Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan when he was in WWE with his affiliation with AEW and her being at
they just
Wembley.
didn't want her to go there. That's the whole thing.
And that's not the right fan base for her either. If she's going to be anything, it's going to be in WWE. She's
Uh,
not the worker, for an AEW. So hey, it is what it
send
is. See what happens.
send them to TNA.
Then we had the WWE Intercontinental title match. Penta picks up the win against Kofi Kingston in 9 minutes and 58 seconds. Steve, what'd you think?
I thought it was a really solid match. I thought Kofi looked good here. Penta's always entertaining, but the big story was after the match. Penta issued a challenge for the ladder match at Mania, and Me personally, that's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. The ladder matches are always car crashes, but I feel WWE is missing out by not having the Lucha Bros as a team. They could save the tag division here and have great matches all across WWE TV. Put them against Logan Paul and Austin Theory, put them against the Usos, put them against the Motor City Machine Guns, the Street Profits, Fraxium. They would just steal the show every time they're out there, but, Phoenix, he's not getting anything. So, we get this six-person ladder match, and, we'll break that down on our WrestleMania preview show, but when you're throwing Sheamus and Rusev in a ladder match,
Yeah, they'll just
Together, they're a team.
no, it's gonna be like a six-person ladder match for the Intercontinental
Oh,
title.
gotcha.
It's Javon Evans, it's Rusev, it's Sheamus, yes, Penta.
Don't they have anybody else they could use besides Rusev?
Yeah, we got 2 Grande Americanos that you're not booking, so why have them on there?
Sounds like you're ordering something. Can I get 2 grande Americanos? You could order that at Starbucks, actually. That's a
Yeah,
drink.
just not for WrestleMania.
Yep, don't order it for WrestleMania.
no, it looks like that from what I read today, it looks like that is going to be a AAA, save for a AAA show, the mask versus mask match. So
That's
that will
Big.
not,
silly.
yeah, that will not be on. It doesn't appear to be on WrestleMania this year. And then it looks like it doesn't look like Dominic's going to defend the AAA belt against Finn. They never announced that as a stip, so that's kind of a shame
Well,
too. They should put that belt on the line.
they're saving that for AAA too.
Probably, yeah,
Crazy.
These partnerships, are they really partnerships?
right.
All right. Then we had a singles match. Raquel Rodriguez defeats Io Sky in 10 minutes and 25 seconds. Joe, what'd you think of this match?
The girls worked hard, but it wasn't clicking. I mean, it was the fans weren't into it. I mean, it's just I know they're trying to exhaust or not exhaust. They're trying to get to that next part of the chapter of Asuka and Kyrie and Io kind of being the savior there. The next step. They're trying. I think they're just trying to be a placeholder till they get there. And I don't even know that that's going to be a match. Or who's even going to step up. Because I feel like you have Asuka and kind of being that like heel, and then Kyrie's like the sympathetic baby face, and Io's in the middle of it, but she's trying to help Kyrie, but not like offend Asuka. And then, she hits, the dive, and then Raquel gets the win. It's just like one of those weird, like none of that ever clicked on the show. It was poorly put together. So I'm sure Steve probably agrees with me. It just wasn't set up to do well.
Yeah, it felt like a standby match to me. No entrances on TV, and they deserved more. Io's entrance is over. She would have gotten that big New York pop, but you don't get to see that. We get to see 7 commercials. I can see 2 more TurboTax commercials, a couple Slim Jim commercials, and not the entrances. You know, the final few minutes was good. It's when they finally started, to get going. But, hopefully we at least get a 3-way with Io versus Asuka versus Kyrie, which would be great, if they're given real time and not, 8.5 minutes.
How big would that match be in New Japan?
It would sell out any arena in Japan right now, Sumo Hall, it would sell out easily.
It would
It,
be
it
really.
would it would be almost as big as the Toru Yano match over there.
Oh my God. Well, it was a beautiful friendship you guys had. Thanks, Joe, for joining. We'll see you never again.
No, I'm with Steve though. It could sell out some of those arenas over there. They're 3 of the best to ever do it over there. The fans love them over there. So yeah, it would do well, no doubt.
All right. There's a couple of topics you wanted to hit, babe.
Yeah, I want to talk about the opening. Cody and Stephanie to open the show. What stood out to me certainly was not either of those two. It was the mention of their fathers. And was that teasing? Were they testing the waters to see? I tweeted this to Bully Ray, and in response, what if Randy's been on the phone with Big Vinny? What if Vince is that voice of reason? That would
I'd
be
be
something. You want to
I'd
get
be
Randy
shocked.
booed? There you go.
I mean, I'd honestly at this point with that lawsuit still pending or
Yeah.
litigation, whatever you want to call it, uh, I'd be shocked at this point. I mean, I know like when Steph came out and said this is the house that her grandfather built, you know, and obviously Cody said, you're not your father. They didn't mention Vince by name. Everyone knows who it was, obviously, but I at this point, I don't see them bringing him in. I think that has to settle itself out first. The only way I see him coming back at all is maybe a Hall of Fame induction. I don't know. I just think with everything pending, it's just probably not the right time for that. That's just kind of where I'm at with that. I thought the segment was okay. It was just kind of a weird the way they did it. It made sense. If you've been a fan as long as Steve and I have, like, it's fine. But if you have people that just started watching, a year or two ago, they have no idea what's going on here. So, just the way they kind of presented it was a little odd, I thought. So
I loved it how he was like, "I got 2 words for you," and everybody's like, "Suck it," and Steve was like, "Thank you," and then Cody Rhodes was like, "Thank you." Like, watching wrestling with Steve, everything is spoiled beforehand because he makes his predictions, and it's usually exactly spot on, like, it's always right. Yeah, it was funny that Cody said exactly what Steve thought he was gonna say.
agreed.
You wanna touch on Liv and Stephanie and the return of Roxanne?
Yeah, I mean, I think Liv has been the best part of Raw for well over a couple of months now. She's a star, and I think she's going to win the title. And she's got a huge movie role coming out this year. And if that movie does well, I think that could propel her into that next level. I mean, her visuals are great, her personality is great. She's bringing fire and some passion to this feud and making it personal. And she's not doing, the chicken shit heel. She's actually standing her ground. She's fighting her. Yeah, she's still cheating. You got to win by any means necessary, but, she's not backing down from Stephanie. And, I think Live on top makes a whole lot of sense. And, Roxanne, she can be that little minion to Live and instantly sets up, her being in the middle of that Liv and Raquel divorce if it goes down that road.
One thing that I thought coming out of this was, yeah, Roxanne came out and helped Liv, but if you remember, it was Finn Balor who brought Roxanne into the Judgment Day. So is it possible at Mania Roxanne helps Finn beat Dom? You always have that little wrinkle, that you could go back to tie the story together. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but it's something to think about, as they head into that match.
Yeah.
And then final thoughts on Roman and Punk ending the show.
I don't know about you, Joe, but I am over CM Punk. I the magic is worn off for me. I'm not sipping the Kool-Aid anymore. Punk is Punk. And, I don't know where we're going with CM Punk. I know every time I watch it, I just want to see Roman smash him. Like I was Jay Uso 2 weeks ago, hoping Roman got him.
One one thing I will say is I like the fact that we didn't get a 20-minute promo segment. At
Thank
least
God.
yeah, at least they went out there, they just brawled, Punk got the upper edge this week. I think you can tell it's a mixed crowd. I think when we talk about Randy and Cody, Randy's definitely, although presented as the heel, he's definitely the baby face in that feud. I think Punk and Roman, it's a mixed bag. We'll see how the crowd is at WrestleMania. Um, th- they could go a lot of ways. Like you said, you could reunite the bloodline. Do I want to see Roman with the belt again? No. I just wonder who, if Punk does end up winning, where do we go from here with him? Because I think he's also getting to a point where he's just a little bit stale as well. So it's going to be interesting that they have some ways to go here. A couple weeks, like we said, till Mania. So we'll see what the game plan is. That doesn't mean something doesn't happen Raw after Mania also. So see what happens.
All right, so that's where things stand in AEW right now. Just kidding. I don't know what my deal is tonight. All right, so that's where things stand in WWE right now. Stories tightening up, pressure building, and WrestleMania season doing exactly what it always does, making everything feel just a bit bigger.
But now, let's have some fun.
Because instead of reacting to the booking, we're taking control of it. It's time for our brand new segment.
Fantasy Book Friday.
This is where logic gets a little loose, budgets don't exist, and we make the one move, just one, to change everything for a company.
Let's take one legend who has never been world champion, and this could be a move that makes total sense or one that completely blows the doors off.
Either way, we're about to find out. Let's book it.
I don't know about you guys, but our dinner plans for WrestleMania are way more exciting than the card plans for WrestleMania. That's all I'm gonna say. But okay, so Steve, let's see. With this segment, did you have anybody in mind in particular that you wanted to fantasy book for a company?
Yeah, so I have my first choice, and then I have two honorable mentions. So my first
Oh,
honorable
craps.
mention is this guy right here, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert. I would love to see Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert helping a company like TNA. Someone to come in, help book ideas, one of the final, mentors to Paul Heyman, to really show him how to book, how to run a territory. I think that would have been a lot of fun. I think adding someone like a Kurt Hennig, a Mr. Perfect, into today's WWE or New Japan would be a huge addition. Kurt Hennig was, AJ Styles before AJ Styles. He was the next big thing and, possibly should have gotten a run, against Hogan in the main event. But, Warrior got that run. So I digress. But my number one choice is someone near and dear to you, Mayor, is Hot Rod, Roddy Piper.
You stole my guy. Go ahead.
I would love to see him in AEW.
Oh my God. Now I can't even share mine. You're just taking it. Go ahead. Finish.
Piper and MJF.
The
One
fuck,
on
man? It's like you read
one
my mind.
one on one. It smells money, it makes money. I mean, you want to talk about selling out Wembley right there. Piper and MJF. Piper could draw that crowd, going for the world title. It would be huge. And someone that could keep up with MJF, someone that could get on the level with the devil would be Hot Rod. So those
Listen,
would be my choices.
to piggyback off of your choice that was mine, I think that he would have been the guy that, like MJF would have finally met his match with Roddy Piper. Like that guy was totally unhinged. You know, he could wrestle technically, but like he was just like a hothead, you know what I mean? Like throw a temper tantrum halfway through the match. He was great on the mic. Like, he was Piper's Pit started all of these stupid like Miz TV and you know what I mean? All of these, show segments within the WWE. And I think that he would have been able to out talk MJF and kick his ass and like, especially particularly in the start of MJF's career with AEW, he would have been the guy to like cut him down, like, you get back in your place, you little rookie piece of shit. You know what I mean? So thanks for stealing my guy, but that is a great booking. I approve it. Joe, did you have one?
I actually have, excuse me, three guys.
Jesus, you guys overprepared.
I have three guys that in their primes, if you place them in AEW could probably be, if not close to WWE, pretty dang close. Brian Pillman, because could you imagine prime Brian Pillman?
Are you talking Hollywood Blonde Pillman, Bengals Trunk Pillman, or ECW Loose Cannon Wrestling a Pencil Brian Pillman?
So I'm talking loose cannon Brian Pillman before the car accident. So you have one of the best workers in the business, both in the ring and on the mic. You take that gimmick, transplant it into AEW with the likes of MJF, Swerve, Kenny, Hangman. I mean, very few people were as good a worker and good promo as Brian Pillman when he was left to his own devices. My second guy is Owen Hart, because Owen Hart could have those matches with a lot of these guys from Japan, CMLL, your high flyers. You could put him anywhere on the card. He was an actual heavyweight. He was about ish and could move like a light heavyweight, cruiserweight. Those two right there, just in terms of match quality, incredible. And then my third guy, and I do actually have one more that I thought about as well. So I'll go with four, since we're allowed free reign here. But my third guy, never a world singles champion, but Davey Boy Smith, prime Davey Boy Smith. Him and Dynamite were a tremendous tag team. And you could have him, and Davey was a great single as well. So you put him in there, and then my last guy, who I think it's probably, and I know, Kurt Hennig, he actually did win the AWA world title once, but this guy here never won a singles world title. Scott Hall. I mean, prime
Razor
Scott Hall,
Ramon.
Razor Ramon. I mean, that dude had the look, the size. He could work. He wasn't working like a Kenny Omega, or a Swerve, but that dude didn't have to work like that. He was that old school 6'4", 6'5", 270-pound guy that knew how to work. He didn't need acrobatics. He could wrestle on the mat. He had the charisma. He could talk on the mic. He could have a 20, 30-minute match with anybody, and it was going to be really good. He kind of reminds me of Randy Orton before Randy Orton, you know. But I think Scott Hall, in all honesty, no disrespect to Randy, I think Scott Hall was a better worker than Randy, you know. Um, but that's another debate for another day. But those are kind of my guys where you put them in AEW and you really kind of take them to another level. All those guys in their prime.
Hey, you could take Davy Boy, but when he was with the British Bulldogs and do a mixed tag match, him and Matilda versus John Moxley and their dog Blue, Bulldog versus Bulldog.
I almost cheated and went with a tag team
Do that, yeah. Why not?
Well,
because
why not? I mean, Joe brought like 20 guys to the table, so you could have done a tag team.
yeah, so I was thinking about a tag team and, we lost one member of that tag team this, in the last week. But just imagine, the Midnight Express in AEW
Yeah.
with James E. Cornette, Beautiful Bobby. I mean, you could even go with the Stan Lane version, it would still be good. But, imagine those matches with the Young Bucks. Imagine if they would have had a feud, in their primes with the Lucha Brothers. What kind of promo would Cornette cut on the Lucha Brothers, from 1986 Jim Cornette? It would have been entertaining. Imagine them and the Rascals, it would just be fun, you know.
That era of tag team wrestling was probably the best. You had your 90s, late 80s, early 90s WWF was pretty solid as well. But I mean, that mid to late 80s, Mid Atlantic, Crockett, Mid South, all those teams that kind of went back and forth from the territories, Freebirds and World Class with the Von
Yep.
Erichs. I mean, that whole era was probably the best ever, I would have to say.
Even the Memphis teams, I was a big Memphis fan growing up, so you had the PYT Express, I feel like that's where, the Rock and Roll Express really started to break out. And that's where Macho Man got his big break before going to WF. He had his feud with Lawler,
Yeah.
even Lawler and Dundee together. They were a great tag team.
No doubt. I mean, that whole, when you go back and look at the territories back then, it really shows you how smart Vince McMahon was, because he rated all the top talent from all those territories, and that's why we have what we have now with WWE. So, I know Vince in the last couple years wasn't so great as a booker, but back then, man, that guy was literally the smartest guy in pro wrestling.
Yeah, 1984. He duped everybody. The
Yep.
fact that he was, asking all these territories for, showcases of their top talent. Well, yeah, I'll put it on my TV show, to help you out. But he was actually just testing the water to see who could get over on national television. And that's
Yep.
how he got, DiBiase. That's how he got Adonis and all those guys.
Yeah, Piper too. Yeah,
Yep. Piper, Valentine, that dog collar match made those guys money.
big time.
Any thoughts, closing thoughts, remarks, questions,
N-
concerns?
No, I mean, I could talk about, territory wrestling all day, every day. That's when it was at its best. And the more independents thrive, the more independents stay alive, and the more they showcase, the better off the wrestling world is. So support your local independents.
Yep. All right, that's going to do it for part 2 of the Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling podcast. And honestly, this one had a little bit of everything.
We broke down WWE, took a hard look at WWE Raw as the road to WrestleMania heats up. And then, yeah, we went a little off the rails with Fantasy Book Friday.
Some great ideas, some questionable decisions, and at least one move that might actually need to happen ASAP.
And of course, shout out to Joe stepping in. because once triple threat mode gets activated, you already know things get unpredictable.
If you rocked with us through both parts, we seriously appreciate it. Make sure you're following, subscribed, and locked in everywhere so you don't miss what's coming next. Same feed, same energy, bigger takes every week. You can catch us on Instagram at Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Pod. You could tweet your thoughts to us at X, M&M Wrestle Pod. Watch us on YouTube, Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Pod. You could shoot us an email, Mr. and Mrs. Wrestling Pod at gmail.com, or connect with us on Facebook. That's all we've got for this week. See you guys next time.